Okay, so March book is In the Company of Men by Véronique Tadjo. I'm gonna say Tadjo. I don't know if that's how you say it. Okay, so I've read this one, and I'm gonna tell you.
Our first book by a writer from the Ivory Coast.
Funny, I couldn't even tell where she was from, and the reason is the book is set in kind of all of the West African countries that experienced Ebola. So,
such as
so we're in, like you said, Ivory Coast. We're in the Gambia. We're in Senegal. Like we're in that sort of West region, and Veronique does some interesting things. It's really short, and each chapter is kind of a perspective from a different person who interacted with the Ebola crisis in some way. So we have a doctor talking about the experience, setting up the health camps and setting up the isolation centers where Ebola patients were treated. We have patients going through it, how it erupted in their villages, how it spread so fast. So Ebola is a contact communicable kind of disease. It's very easily spread.
Quite viral.
It's quite viral, and literally just by touching, somebody.
Is it so? It's contact based. Is it is something you can get through water? Can you get it?
I mean, I can't tell from this book, but one thing that does come out is in being in contact with each other, you're gonna get it. In being in contact with dead bodies, you're gonna get it as well, which is a major theme because of how traditionally people buried their dead, and funerals became super spreaders of this disease, and your chances of survival with Ebola were very low. It was almost certainly a death sentence. So in the beginning, we have a character where the wife is dying, a child is dying, and he realizes, like, we're all dying. He has one daughter who he thinks isn't sick, and he just sends her off, go to your aunt and run away. This is before anyone knows what Ebola is. So off she goes, her whole family dies. Off she goes, but of course, without knowing it, she spreads. And so she's cast out of that family because, they're talking about you gave us this disease, as more information is coming up. But so you watch her going through it, what it's like to have families get it. You have a nurse perspective as well. You see even just how they did the PPE. I mean, it reminded me so much of COVID. But their PPE was so intense that they could only do like 10 minutes at a time.
You mean they couldn't breathe?
They couldn't breathe longer than 10 minutes. So they would like put everything in and then go, and then rush out. And because it was so communicable, any slight tear, any mistake while you were injecting somebody, any mistake taking it off, they had to be hosed down with chlorine just to take it off. So they're in this constant fear at all times. And you have, doctors dying, even though they were wearing this PPE. So the other interesting perspectives we have in here is she has this interaction between humans and nature as well. So you actually have elements of nature talking about the disease and about humans and what humans have done to the earth that causes diseases like this. So you have, the thought is it came through bats.
Correct.
So you have
pretty similar to COVID.
Right. So you have the perspective of the bat. Yeah, you have the perspective of trees.
Wasn't it that they suspect that because of encroachments into the rainforest,
that it exposed. So
being bitten by, we don't know.
Yeah, so they're talking about like we've had this disease in nature all along, and we've kind of had it under control. Humans encroached. Humans don't know when to stop. Humans don't know when to leave nature to be, and this is what happens. It now came out. And then in the end, you actually have Ebola's own perspective too.
Okay.
Which is interesting.
It's not a book really that has spoilers.
No,
so we know what the
we know what happened. We know what happens in the end. There's a lot of grief. There's a lot of trauma. There is some hope. We see the end of the pandemic as well. You see what it did to cultures, what it did to how people live. It's pretty grim.
It's not a...
It's pretty grim.
Given the subject matter.
But I do think the license she took in giving nature a voice is an interesting twist. I think it's translated. I think she writes in French.
Yeah.
You can tell.
Okay.
It's a little bit like stilted in English.
Oh, so you feel, because this is an interesting, it's an interesting question. I believe this is maybe only the second or third book we've read in translation from French.
Yeah.
So how do you, because you also speak French.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about translation specifically from English into French?
I don't feel
from
like,
French into English.
I don't feel like she used like a literary translator. Do you know what I mean? Like it feels like it's done in a non-literary sense. Like it's done.
So it sounds like you feel it would have been better had she used a literary translator.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's how she wrote it in French too. It's not like a poetic work. It's more like this is what happened.
Clinical?
Yeah, it's a little bit like clinical in its approach. So it doesn't feel poetic in that sense. Whereas some of the other, like we read Our Lady of the Nile, which had a little bit more poetry to it, a bit of flow. This is very like, I mean, she has some poetic moments in there, but it doesn't feel like you're reading like a great literary work. I think she came to tell a message. She said it and she left. She's done. Yeah. Okay. I think it's an important read, especially because we don't know that much about Ebola. I didn't. Yeah, I think go for it. I would give it a 3.
A 3 out of 5?
Only because I like my work to be literary and flowy.
I see.
But information-wise, yeah, it's a good work.
It was up there. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you feel like maybe you would you be interested in reading the book in French?
No, I'm done.
You're fine? Okay, fair enough.
I get the point. People died.
Okay, yeah, I got it.
I get the point.
Okay, that's all right. So that's In the Company of Men by Véronique Tadjo.